A market that never sleeps just caught a second wind. In Massachusetts, the numbers are small, the moves are steady, and the stakes are enormous. Start with the pulse. In October, across the Commonwealth, 3,921 single-family homes closed, up 5.6% from a year earlier. The median price for those homes edged to $660,000, a 2.3% year-over-year gain. Condos told a quieter story that same month. A 1.1% dip in closed sales, but a median at $549,900, up 2.8%. 1 month earlier, in September, the market tilted active again. Closed sales rose 4.8% for single-family homes and 6.4% for condos. The single-family median stepped to $654,500, up 4.7% year-over-year. The median for condos moved to $525,000, up 1%. Those are not fireworks. They're a drumbeat. This is a state where marginal shifts matter, because supply and competition do the heavy lifting. In September, single-family inventory still fell 4.2% year-over-year, but new listings appeared, up 7.5% for single-family homes and up 13.3% for condos. The signal is simple. More sellers are testing the water, even as buyers keep showing up. Now zoom out one notch to New England's map of heat. Boston cracked the top 10 on a national list of hottest housing markets for 2026, landing at number 7 after sitting at number 16 the year before. Nearby Providence ranked even higher at number 4, and Hartford took the top spot. Why does that matter in Massachusetts? Because the forces that power Hartford and Providence, scarcity, speed, and affordability, are echoing across the Charles, the Berkshires, and the Cape. In Hartford, inventory sits 63% below pre-pandemic levels, the deepest deficit among the 50 largest metros. Only 16.5% of listings took a price cut. Home values there rose 4.3% last year, fastest among major metros, with an average time on market around a week, and 66% of homes selling above asking. Boston is no slouch on competition. In 2205, 65% of homes sold above asking across the metro. Yet the price canvas is very different. In October 2010-5, Hartford's Zillow Home Value Index read $381,760. Boston's read $717,711. Providence sat between them at $500 and $3,409. The causal chain starts with scarcity and ends with urgency. When buyers chase limited options, the conversation narrows. How fast, how much, and who blinks first? In Massachusetts, the September and October numbers show it plainly. Sales rising while median prices grind higher, even with single-family inventory down year-over-year in September by 4.2%. The slight rebalance came from new listings, not from a flood of supply, and the demand hung in. Look at where the pressure lands. Some of the largest one-year dollar gains in the Commonwealth over the 12 months ending in November 2025 stack in the well-known suburbs. Weston tops the list. A typical home value of $2,167,570 after a one-year jump of $82,624, up 4.0%. 5 years back tells you the ARC, up $804,519, a 59.0% leap. Wellesley follows with a $67,667 gain in a year to $1,932,908, a 3.6% increase and $623,339 higher than 5 years ago. Dover advanced by $63,022 to $1,704,854, up 3.8% year-over-year, and $537,076 across 5 years. This is not a Boston-only story. Norwell, on the South Shore, posted a 6% one-year increase to $1,002,800, a dollar gain of $56,407. Lexington climbed to $1,520,479, up $46,139 in a year, and $462,826 over 5 years. Newton advanced by $50, $1,806 to $1,461,113 in a year, a 3.7% rise, and plus $402,492 over 5 years. Needham reached $1,477,660 after a $35,577 annual gain. Concord moved to $1,401,330, adding $42,117 year over year and $483,305 since 5 years ago. Winchester stands at $1,487,257, up $28,835 in a year and $413,724 across 5 years. By the coast, the rhythm holds. Situate sits at $963,151, up $29,966 year over year, a 3.2% climb, and $321,717 over 5 years. Duxbury is at $1,057,580, up $33,933, a 3.3% rise, and $385,808 higher across 5 years. Marshfield reached $761,509 after gaining $22,097 in a year, nearly half again higher across 5 years with a 49.9% rise. Gloucester hit $743,335, up $26,146, a 3.6% gain in a year, and $238,000 over 5 years. Marblehead climbed to $997,637, up $22,648 annually, and $280,281 across 5 years. On Cape Cod, Provincetown's typical value stands at $1,029,909, up $22,762 in a year and $354,630 over 5 years. Across Vineyard Sound, Chilmark holds one of the most striking marks, $2,320,832, up $49,811 year over year, a 2.2% jump, and up $749,747 over 5 years. Travel inland, and the pressure is there too, only smaller in scale, not in intensity. Longmeadow in the Springfield metro area sits at $516,166 with a 1-year gain of $23,600, $254,000 higher than 5 years ago. Berlin in the Worcester area is at $647,851, up $20,797 in a year, and $189,136 across 5 years. West Bridgewater in the Boston-Cambridge-Newton metro has a typical value of $577,325, up $21,615 year over year, and $163,675 over 5 years. Hanson stands at $591,955 after a $20,317 annual gain, up 3.6% in a year, and $173,282 across 5. Head west. In Berkshire County, Stockbridge sits at $727,467, a $22,579 annual gain, up 3.2% and $260,331 higher than 5 years ago. Nearby Egremont rose to $784,164 with a $41,260 surge in a year, a 5.6% increase, and $306,639 across 5 years. Mount Washington climbed to $617,542, up $35,985 in a year, a 6.2% change, and $191,974 over 5. These are dollar movements, but they represent people losing weekends to open houses and agents scraping ice for a showing. One veteran agent based in Westwood, with more than 30 years in the business and over $1 billion in real estate sold, has spent the past 25 years leading her office in both sales and listings. Another, working across much of Middlesex and parts of Worcester and Essex counties, has served more than 1,500 buyers, sellers, and tenants over 14 years, and once shoveled a driveway on Christmas Eve to keep a showing on track. That kind of persistence only makes sense when the market rewards speed and preparation. Why is speed at a premium? Because competitive intensity often decides the outcome. Boston's share of over-asking sales, 65% in 2000-2005, shows how frequently offers need to clear list. In Hartford, the blades are sharper. 2/3 of homes closed above asking, and the average time on market was about a week. The link is scarcity. With inventory 63% below pre-pandemic in Hartford and only 16.5% of homes lowering asking prices, buyers there have little room. Signals suggest the same scarcity-driven competition is at work in Massachusetts, albeit with local form. Single-family inventory still lower year over year in September by 4.2%, even as new listings rose. Amid that tension, a simple rule emerges: price it right, and it moves. This fall, balanced Goldilocks pricing proved critical as closed sales increased in September for both single-family homes and condos. When pricing landed in the pocket, neither wishful nor panicked, buyers lined up. That lined up with October's pattern as well: more single-family closings, higher medians, and a condo median that climbed while fewer units closed. In other words, buyers paid up for the right product, and some sat out where the fit was wrong. Affordability remains the undercurrent. Across the United States, the typical home value in November stood at $360,782, just 0.2% above a year earlier. Massachusetts plays on a higher register. In the Boston-Cambridge-Newton metro, towns like Lexington at $1,520,479, Newton at $1,461,113, and Winchester at $1,487,000. $257 show that the middle tiers sit where other metros' luxury tiers do. 5-year moves add weight. Lexington up $460, $2,826, Newton up $402,492, Winchester up $413,724. The places that still feel attainable aren't cheap. West Bridgewater at $577,325, Berlin at $647,851, and Longmeadow at $516,000, each added more than $20,000 in a year. In that context, a first-time buyer sees a staircase, not a step. Even so, price gains are not uniform. Some high-end enclaves moved moderately in percent terms, but added large dollars, while mid-market towns notched higher percentage growth off smaller bases. Norwell's 6% rise in a year took it past $1 million to $1,002,800. Wenham jumped 4.8% to $1 million, $28,647, up $47,202 year over year, and $367,894 over 5 years. Manchester climbed 4.4% in a year to $1,270,507, a gain of $53,310 and $442,545 over 5 years. By contrast, Arlington increased 2.5% to $1,031,693, up $25,368 in a year, and $244,768 across 5 years. On the coast north of Boston, marble and salt air command a premium. Newbury's typical value stands at $908,599 after a $23,416 annual gain, up 2.6% in a year and $308,176 since 5 years back. Newburyport reached $906,016 with a $25,983 annual gain, up 3.0% year over year and $293,860 over 5 years. Rowley sits at $776,628, up $21,226 in a year, and $231,816 across 5 years. Gloucester climbed to $743,335, up $26,146 year over year, and $238,596 over 5 years. Provincetown and Chilmark at $1,029,909 and $2,320,832 respectively illustrate the span from elite to ultra-elite with 1-year upticks of $22,760, $2.40, $9,811. Inside Route 128, the gravity intensifies. Wellesley's $67,667 annual increase, Weston's $82,624 surge, and Lincoln's $55,848 rise to $1,471,924 define a corridor where buyers compete not only with each other, but with 5-year appreciation that has already banked between $483,900 and $4,519 in Weston. Winchester, at $1,487,257, added $28,835 in a year. Lexington's $46,139 annual move and Concord's $42,117 gain form a pattern. Million-plus towns adding the price of a compact car in 12 months and the price of a house in the Midwest over 5 years. South of Boston, Hingham climbed to $1,264,218 after a $28,161 annual gain and a 5-year addition of $421,044. Scituate's $29,966 annual rise took it to $963,151. Cohasset reached $1,361,625 with a $42,458 annual move and $463,855 over 5 years. Marshfield's $22,097 annual climb took it to $761,509, nearly half again higher than 5 years ago, up 49.9%. Duxbury, at $1,057,580, rose $33,933 in a year, up 57.4% over 5 years. Norwell's $56,407 annual increase, the 6% surge, shows the same dynamic on a slightly lower base. North of the city, the pattern repeats. Andover reached $956,045 after a $28,535 annual rise, up 47.1% in 5 years, with a $306,273 gain. Reading sits at $878,046 after a $20,519 annual move and $246,921 over 5 years. Bedford crossed the million mark at $1,953, up $20,550 in a year and $268,067 over 5. Linfield, at $1,058,731, climbed $21,401 year over year and $330,767 in 5 years. Topsfield rose to $934,277, up $24,450 annually and $280,181 across 5. Hamilton hit $856,047 after a $26,012 annual gain, up $200,036,791 in 5 years. On the Metro West line, Hopkinton stands at $928,300 after a $22,225 annual gain and $290,212 over 5 years. Westwood sits at $1,190,500 with a $38,760 annual increase and $381,740 across 5. Sherborne reached $1,188,919, up $38,761 in a year, and $369, $954 over 5. Lexington and Needham anchor one flank, Concord and Lincoln anchor another, and together they show how the ring around Boston collects the bulk of the dollar gains. Head out to the islands and peninsulas, and you see intensity wrapped in tranquility. Chilmark's $49,811 annual increase to $2,320,832 puts it in rare air. Provincetown's $22,762 move to $1,029,909 underscores how even small percent moves translate to large sums. In the Berkshires, the percentage story pops. Egremont's 5.6% rise added $41,260 in a year and $306,639 across 5. Mount Washington's 6.2% increase added $35,985 and $191,974 over 5 years. Stockbridge's 3.2% rise added $22,579 in a year and $260,331 across 5 years. These are smaller markets, but the rate of change signals demand pushing into places long considered second homes or retreats. What does this mean on the ground? Buyers compete on preparation and timing. Sellers win on pricing precision. In September, closed sales increased while single-family inventory decreased 4.2% year-over-year, yet new listings rose 7.5% and 13.3% for condos. October followed with 3,921 single-family closings, up 5.6% year-over-year, and medians at $660,000 for single-family and $549,000 for condos. These are the conditions that push agents to hustle, like the one who shoveled a driveway on a holiday to keep a window of opportunity open. The logic is simple. If a Boston area home can still draw multiple offers with 65% of sales closing above asking in 22.5, missing a showing means missing a shot. That hustle echoes up the value chain. A Westwood-based agent with over 3 decades in the field has sold more than $1 billion in real estate and has ranked in the top 1% of agents nationwide, even reaching top number 4 in New England and holding the number 1 listing and selling spot in her local market. It's a reflection of the environment. When buyers and sellers crave certainty, they pay for mastery. On the design-build side, a Concord-based firm focused on high-end accessory dwelling units, full-service projects from concept to delivery, recently built the only subdivision in historic Concord developed by a woman-owned firm. One of their homes became Boston Magazine's most viewed home of 2023, and a project landed in a bank's annual report in 2021. In a state short on space, accessory units become strategic square footage for multi-generational living, rental income, or a buffer against rising costs. Competition is both a feature and a filter. In Hartford, 66% of homes sold above asking in a week. In Boston, 65% sold above asking in 2025. The difference is price, not pressure. Hartford's home value index at $381,760 in October 2025 keeps monthly payments lower, while Boston's at $717,711 stretches the same dynamics over larger budgets. Providence sits at $503,409 with year-over-year growth of 2.5%, whereas Boston grew 1.2% over the same horizon. The lesson for Massachusetts isn't to chase Hartford, it's to understand that the same mechanics are in play at different price levels, and to act accordingly. For those targeting affordable opportunities, the map narrows and the data define the lanes. Longmeadow at $516,166 and a 4.7% annual rise. West Bridgewater at $577,325 and a 3.9% annual rise. Handsome at $591,955 and a 3.6% annual rise. Berlin at $647,851 and a 3.3% annual rise. These towns still saw $20,000 plus gains in 12 months and 6-figure gains across 5 years. The pressure doesn't vanish at lower price points, it tightens. At the pinnacle, the wealth effect looks different. Weston's $82,624 annual increase to $2,167,570 is just 4.0% on paper, but it's an entire starter home's worth of appreciation in less than a year. Wellesley's $67,667 annual move to $1,932,908, Dover's $63,022 step to $1,704,854, and Lincoln's $55,848 climb to $1,471,924 show a ceiling that keeps rising even as transaction volume ebbs and flows. 5-year gains above $400,000 are routine in these towns. $483,997 in Lincoln, $537,076 in Dover, $623,339 in Wellesley, and $804,519 in Weston. Some communities split the difference. Andover at $956,045, up $28,535 year over year, and $306,273 over 5 years. Newbury at $908,599, up $23,416 annually, up $308,176 across 5. Newburyport at $906,016, up $25,983 in a year, and $293,860 over 5. Manchester at $1,271,507, up $53,310 in a year, and $442,545 across 5. Newton and Lexington, with annual moves of $51,806 and $46,139, pair those gains with 5-year climbs of $402,492 and $462,826. It is a broad front, not just a few outliers. The calendar matters. September and October are transition months. Yet the market's footing held. Sales up, medians up, even as supply remained tight for single-family homes in September. Condo inventory did expand year over year in September by 5.1%, hinting at relief in attached living. More condo listings appeared, up 13.3% in September, and new single-family listings rose 7.5%. Sellers found reasons to list, maybe because buyers still showed up, and because the right price still unlocked multiple offers. Put all of that against the expectation for the next year. Economists tracking these markets anticipate home values will nudge up 1.7% in 2026, and mortgage rates will slide gradually towards 6%. If that trajectory holds, it could widen the window for both sides. For buyers, a step down in rates reduces the monthly squeeze. For sellers, modest price growth paired with expanded demand could mean shorter listing times and fewer painful price cuts. The caveat is geography. Even in this optimistic glide, they warn that improvements will depend on location. Massachusetts proves that point in place after place. Wenham at $1,028,647 with a 4.8% annual rise. Manchester's 4.4% climb, Norwell's 6% surge, Egremont's 5.6%, and Mount Washington's 6.2% moves farther west. Duxbury's 3.3% rise, Scituate's 3.2%, Concord's 3.1%, Lexington's 3.1%, and Needham's 2.5% increases. Boston's broader metro chalked a 1.2% year-over-year home value gain, while Providence landed at 2.5%. The ground shifts under your feet depending on which road you take. There's also a cultural dimension to the numbers. The rise of high-end accessory dwelling units in Massachusetts, luxury ADUs built as turnkey purpose-built spaces, speaks to the ways families adapt to cost and space. A Concord-based company focused on these projects recently completed the only subdivision in historic Concord developed by a woman-owned firm. Their work has attracted enough attention that one home became the most viewed home of 2023 in a major magazine's pages, and a project was highlighted by a regional bank in 2010-1. In a market this tight, square footage that works harder, whether for multi-generational living, rental income, or lifestyle flexibility, is not a trend, it's a strategy. The city and the suburbs are not in competition, they are linked. Boston, at $717,711 in October 2025, is both the center and the price anchor. Surrounding towns draft behind that number, each with its own velocity. Arlington at $1,031,693, up $25,368 in a year, and $244,768 over 5, suggests a pressure ridge in the near suburbs. Belmont at $1,397,626, up $20,603 in a year, and $339,633 across 5, adds to it. Watertown at $812,810, up $22,611, and $165,659 over 5, sits as a bridge market. Weston and Wellesley chart the crest. The shoreline towns translate water views into sustained 5-year gains. Scituate up $321,717, Cohasset up $463,855, Marblehead up $280,281. And then there are the towns that show the wider base of demand. Merrimack at $641,036, up $20,844 year over year, and $190,536 over 5. Berlin at $647,851 with a $20,797 annual gain. Pembroke at $642,340, up $20,577 and $186,775 over 5. West Newbury at $919,000, up $19,999 in a year, and $295,866 over 5. They are the connective tissue of a state where even the second tier looks like the first tier elsewhere. If you want to see how competition shapes behavior, look at price cuts. Hartford's 16.5% share of price-reduced homes is remarkably low. While we don't have an identical figure statewide for Massachusetts in this window, the fact that over-asking sales are the norm in Boston suggests a similar dynamic. List sensibly, and you will not need to reduce. That's what Goldilocks pricing means, a price that neither chases the last comp upward nor flees downward at the first headwind. In September and October, that approach coincided with higher medians and rising closed sales. Now, what comes next? Base case: a steady market that grinds forward into 2026. Expect modest appreciation as seen this fall, single-family medians around the mid-600s and inching upward, condo medians in the mid-500s and drifting higher, while transaction counts hold or grow modestly, like September's 4.8% rise in single-family closed sales and October's 5.6% bump to 3,921 closings. If mortgage rates continue their gradual descent towards 6%, demand could broaden without igniting runaway price spikes. In a map where Weston adds $82,624 in a year and Longmeadow adds $23,062, it's the slope of the line that matters, not the fireworks. Watch item 1, supply. In September, single-family inventory was still down 4.2% year over year, even as new listings rose 7.5%. Condo inventory grew by 5.1%, with new listings up 13.3%. Track whether single-family inventory continues to lag into winter and spring. If it does, bidding intensity, already visible with 62.5% of Boston area sales closing above asking in 2025, could harden, and medians could face upward pressure even if sales volumes soften seasonally. Watch item 2, the geography of growth. The biggest one-year dollar jumps, $82,624 in Weston, $67,667 in Wellesley, $63,202 in Dover, $56,407 in Norwell, cluster in affluent hubs. But percentage growth has been strongest in some lower base towns, 6.2% in Mount Washington, 6.0% in Norwell, 5.6% in Egremont, 4.8% in Wenham. If mortgage rates ease, signals suggest those mid-market and outer ring areas could see more buyers pivot their search toward them, reshaping the demand map without removing the pressure around Boston. The margin for error is small. A condo in Somerville or Watertown, priced properly, will pull interest faster than one priced to nostalgia. A single-family home in Andover or Lexington with a smart list price will still draw a crowd. A coastal cottage in Scituate or Duxbury with realistic expectations will attract buyers who understand the 5-year value arcs, $321,717 higher in Scituate and $385,808 higher in Duxbury since 5 years ago. Sellers who overreach will still find the market unforgiving, even as buyers strain to make the math work. Across New England, Hartford's ascent, inventory 63% below pre-pandemic, time on market about a week, 66% over asking, acts as a mirror. Boston's ranking among the hottest markets for 22, 6 number 7, tells us the story is not about retreat. It's about a long, uneven climb. Providence at number 4, with a home value index of $503,409 and 2.5% year-over-year growth, sits as a middle waypoint. Boston's 1.2% home value growth over the same period underscores how a high base tempers the percentage gains. Yet the dollar amounts, $15,000 here, $30,000 there, $80,000 at the top, still accumulate quickly. So, if you're buying, build your bid around the realities you can measure: local medians, 1-year dollar moves, and 5-year arcs in your target towns. If you're selling, write your pricing story to this season's data. Closed sales up 5.6% in October to 3,921 single-family homes, medians nudging higher, and new listings gaining ground in September with 7.5% more single-family and 13.3% more condo listings. If you're building or renovating, consider the strategic square footage that accessory units can deliver in a market short on space. And if you're watching the horizon, remember that the next 12 months will likely reward patience and precision more than gambles. The Massachusetts housing market doesn't announce itself with explosive spikes. It whispers in steady numbers and rewards those who listen closely. Today, those numbers say this: scarcity still rules, competition still bites, and prices, from Longmeadow at $516,166 to Weston at $2,167,570 are still rising, some by $20,000 a year, some by $80,000 a year. The script is set for 2026, a modest rise in home values, a potential easing in rates towards 6%, and a map where town lines matter more than headlines. Stay nimble, study the numbers in your zip code, and act decisively when the fit is right. Then, if this breakdown helped you navigate what's next, tap follow for more clear-eyed market storytelling grounded in real data.